From the heartland of America and the gateway to the West, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever the hell you may be. Broadcasting from an abandoned bunker below third base, surrounded by ghosts and corn, this is Don't You Know? Along with Kyle Ganzen and Luke Maiers. How you doing, guys?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good, good. Glad you guys came on here. So, Luke, you are with NICC, and your quick little bio here. Just tell me about how you got your major progress to NICC, what you got going on with NICC.
What the program itself's got going on?
Yeah,
Oh, we got a lot of exciting stuff happening. So, do you want me to take it back to as far
let's
as I
start.
know?
Yeah,
As
let's start. Let's start. You know, when where'd you your bio? You know, where you kind of grew up and everything, and kind of how the road kind of got you to NICC, and what's all going on, what you're doing.
Yep. So I'm from Holy Cross, born and raised. Left for a couple years. Went down to college in the Quad Cities, St. Ambrose University, where I majored in radio and TV production and journalism. I knew ever since I'd take it back to eighth grade, I knew I wanted to be, my idol was Gary Dolphin. I wanted to be Gary Dolphin someday. So that's kind of what led me down that path. Then out of college, I had a radio job up in Charles City, Iowa, and then eventually bounced around back to Dubuque County a little bit and found myself in a couple different positions. Dyersville commercial, I covered plenty of sports teams there, but did news as well. Went and did some marketing for a couple of companies. And then 2 years ago, actually, Friday was my anniversary for NICC, which there I was just on the marketing team in general. About 18 months ago, I had my mid-year review. My boss is like, tell me anything you want to do or any dreams you have. So I told her I knew athletics was possibly coming to the college. And I'm like, once that gets fired up, I'd love to be involved with that because sports are my passion. That's always been like one of the most important things in my life to me. So, and then October 1st of this year, I joined Nick Weinmeister and Connor Klosterman to form our small athletic department.
So, you were talking about media stuff, and I know you got a little podcast. Give yourself a plug on your podcast.
Oh, it's called the Hawkeye Tailgate Report, and it's really just the idea started back in 2017 before the season in August. My brother said to me he knew I loved like broadcasting and I love the Iowa Hawkeyes. He's like, why don't you just start doing that? And so the idea came to life. And that season, I would actually go around tailgate to tailgate and ask Iowa fans like their thoughts on the team. I would give them trivia questions, and then give them like wristbands we had made and stuff like that. And kind of got away from that model a little bit. We did that for about 2 or 3 more years, but then it just turned into me and my brother Joey Maiers and another fella from Holy Cross, Austin Maiers, and now we just basically weekly, especially during the fall, some occasionally during the basketball season, we'll get on and just kind of talk about the games that have been going on or other news that's been happening. So it's fun to do, and it's actually introduced me to some pretty nice Iowa fans over the years that I wouldn't have met otherwise. So
Oh,
What's
that's awesome.
Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
I said that's awesome. I mean, like you said, that's kind of why, our drive, Lyle's and, a few of his colleagues kind of same deal. Just wanted to start a podcast and you just got to kind of just do it and jump into it. How often are you currently staying into that?
like I said, during football season, it's usually
Yeah.
every week. We're doing it every week. And then we, during basketball season, we'll probably put out 3 or 4 throughout from like January 1 to the end of the basketball season. And then we take like May off, May to early June off, and then we just kind of fire it up again. Because that's when the blood starts flowing for football season. January or July 1st hits and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be let down again.
Is the passion of the game there for sure. So what's this? What's I hear this Van McCaffrey? What's the story with that?
So Van McCaffrey, we actually bought it off of our uncle, Al Heiberger, in 2020 during COVID. Was getting rid of his season tickets, didn't need the van anymore. And it just kind of came to life. We bought it from him for a few $1,000 and needed it for tailgating, going down to Iowa City and any other road trips we may take throughout the year. And we actually had a pretty extensive naming process for it because you could think of plenty of former Iowa athletes or coaches' names that would play on the Van pun. So like my favorite, which if I had to pick, it would have been Ricky Vanzi. There was Bob Vanders, James Vandenberg. Yeah, we had a pile of them, probably like 15 to 20, I think. But the other two guys wanted Van McCaffrey, which no problem at all by me.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So
I will say though, we are actually listing it for sale right now. So
oh boy.
I just saw that on Facebook. I'm like,
yep,
oh
KG, there
boy.
you go. There you go, baby.
$5,000. It is new shocks, tires are in good shape, new battery. I mean, for it being as old as it is, I think it is as nice of a van that you could get for that age.
Now, is there a replacement? Is there a Van McCaffrey too, or I mean,
Oh,
are we going for a bus or
at this
I
point,
mean,
no. I mean, at this point, no. However, once I once I grow up and get a little more money to my name, I'm not putting that out of the possibility. But you buy a house and you get all these expenses and you got to fund those somehow. So
right, right. Well, I was maybe thinking of the bus by chance, and you could paint that purple with NICC along the side of it, and you can haul them sports teams around.
I did offer it to the athletic director, Nick Weinmeister. I said, hey, we have a nice price on this. It can legally fit 7, comfortably fit 9, and max out at 12. So
If you strap somebody to the top, I guess. So what
yeah.
how did this what's kind of the nuts and bolts of the old NICC athletics now coming in? How did it all start? How did it get rolling? Who brought it up? That type of thing. Tell me what you know,
So
or I guess what you can't tell.
a few years, or well, it was more than a few years ago. I think it was well before my time. 2019, I think I've been told, is when it was kind of first initiated by leadership at NICC because I think we're the only community college in the state without at that point without some form of athletics program. So it kind of started way back then, and we did have a plan laid out in a 5-year plan type situation. And then what happened in 2020?
Oh,
Coronavirus. So that kind of delayed everything and pushed everything back and derailed it. But it was always on the minds of leadership at NICC that is something they wanted to do. And then what was it, last January or December, we hired Amy Gaffney, who was kind of put in charge over like student services, everything like that. She was the vice president of all that stuff. And she was the one initiating the search for the athletic director at that time. And myself and several other NICC folk were on a committee, went through dozens of candidates, applications, resumes, all that stuff. And we did get it down to a couple of good candidates that we brought in and had open forums for NICC staff and faculty to come ask questions to. And the candidates could also speak for themselves. And we all ultimately landed on Nick Weinmeister as our athletic director. And from day one, he took a very firm approach because he knew what he wanted to do. He did have some experience in athletic administration field, so he had a direction he wanted to go. And from day one, he hasn't wasted time. And I think hiring him was the right direction or what was needed for the department to head to where it's at right now.
I guess, Luke, can you give us a rundown? Kind of, I know they're targeting, I know baseball's been kind of their first couple targets, baseball and softball. I guess, are those the only two sports or what direction are they looking to go with adding the sports?
Yep. So I'll even take you back before Nick was hired. In 2022, they started a sports shooting program and esports program. So they have two esports arenas. that are one in Piasta and one at our Calmer campus. And in my opinion, I think they're extremely nice for what we were looking at, funds wise and whatnot. So I think even just we had our first national champion in esports this year. So I should give him a shout, Mason Segrin. So shout out to him, first national champion, only national champion. But so those two were back in 2022. And then the proposal this year was included with baseball, softball, men's and women's cross country, dance, were the new additions that were coming to the department.
Okay.
Yep. And most of the sports are district wide for us. So that will be like, we'll have sports shooters from each campus, esports athletes, stuff like that. So
what are your two main sports? I mean, as far as right now, what are you guys looking at that you formed?
as of our new ones,
Yes.
well, I mean, all of them are kind of our priority or our focus right now. I mean, we all want to make sure we have good, deep rosters last year. We have all of the coaches hired already. So we have for cross country, it's Bob Schultz, who was actually at Loras College for 20 years. I believe he's had a couple of national championships to his name as well. We got Kylie Gedkin Kierman, who is the head director of the Extreme Dance Studio out of Dubuque, and she has hundreds of students under her, so she's great. And then Barrick Faust was hired as our esports coach. He's an NICC employee and an NICC Hall of Famer. Anthony Cisneros, he's our sports shooting coach. And then, am I missing one here? Oh, baseball coach, very familiar name to the area, Connor Klosterman. And then our softball coach will be Nick Weinmeister, our athletic director, for at least a year or two. So
that's very exciting. And you got some really nice fields to play on there in Piasta there, just to the east over the hill. So
well, we haven't locked in anything officially yet. So that's still up in the air, but hopefully in the coming weeks we will have some. We have an idea. We just need to have it officially ironed out and ink. So
yeah. Okay, well, good.
You know, that is one topic, Luke, that we kind of Tucker LaBelle, who's not on tonight, unfortunately, we just talked about kind of the vision of Dubuque County sports and just like, all the people that are kind of turned on to this area now, coming in, traveling with the Field of Dreams tournaments and just like baseball in general, how big a pastime it is in Dubuque County. And we truly think it's just awesome that NICC is doing it. The one question like I have, and I know you obviously you can't answer, is facilities wise, right? Piasta tied in with Clark and neighboring ball fields getting so much pressure as it is. Just they're rented, they get rented during the week. They got practices, they got games. Like that's gonna be kind of the big elephant for I think everybody to see how that all plays out. And especially if we get a June like we did last year. I talked to Casey Bryant last year, and he said they practiced on the football field more than they did the baseball field because it was always so god darn wet. But so that's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. Hopefully it works out for even Dubuque County. Maybe we get some upgraded baseball fields. Maybe we get some more surfaces that are playable more nights. Like you look at 45 minutes away here in Independence, every field they have over there is turfed, and so I'm kind of curious who's going to be the first one to do that. Who's going to, you got UD and Dubuque, which obviously is a great asset for us sometimes, but it'll be curious to see one of these small towns who's gonna take the big leap first and stick some money into their baseball field.
yeah, and we're excited that NICC baseball's here. Like I know I've told Nick before, and I don't have to tell Connor because he's from the area, but like Dubuque County is a rich baseball history and has a huge tie to the game. Like I'm from Holy Cross, and I'm sure everybody who's from the area knows where Holy Cross is at least. But I like to joke, hell, Leo High School in the '80s went back-to-back years with a runner-up and a national champion or a state championship in baseball, and that's a school of at that point like 60 people. So like if a town like that can do it, it's just rich throughout, and I'm very excited that that is here.
Well, and one thing we also discussed last week, the changing landscape of NCAA sports, right? And everybody's going to need to start somewhere. And you have these hotshot high school recruits that are, not just baseball, but football. They essentially have nowhere to go.
Mhm.
They need, they need that kind of jump start, and I think NICC will be a great landing spot for somebody not quite sure where they want to go, looking to just play college sports and just, figure out life after. So I think it's another great option. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how it all blossoms here. So I think Connor's a great hire, especially you want to recruit Dubuque County hard. He's a guy, grew up Beckman, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Beckman.
yeah,
yeah.
so I think he had a pretty nice high school baseball career. And it's gonna be fun to watch him just recruit kids from the area, kids who want to play baseball, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I feel the fruit is going to bear pretty good. I remember when Kirkwood, it's like, wow, they're getting a sports program, and they've done pretty well in that sports department there. So, and I think you're right. Connor's going to have some success here with a pretty rich environment. It within about 20 miles of having some really, really a lot of good players
Yeah,
to pick
and
from.
shout out to him and our assistant baseball coach, Corey Harrell. They Connor started the first week of October, and Corey joined him a couple weeks later. But they've done a very exceptional job of filling a roster thus far. So
What does that roster look like, Luke? 25 kids, 30 kids? What kind of numbers does that require at that level?
I believe right now they're looking for something like 40.
Okay.
So and they're doing a good job of getting to that number thus far.
One thing I love that I don't think people are realizing, if they haven't been through Piasta lately, that college suites, that around the area the NICC really growing. That college suites, I've just heard recently they're almost full or they're working on capacity. They got a Mexican restaurant come to town. I know you're a big fan of Mexican. Probably gonna have to start hitting that up on Fridays, but yeah, some good things happening out in Piasta, and it's just good for those kids to have a little college life out there too, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, well it gives it the college experiences, and that's kind of what we're shooting for. Where the athletic department wants to make a new energy come to the campus itself, because there's been a lot of good stuff happening at NICC over the last couple of years. They completed huge renovations to the building. Um, like if you walk through it, I had a Facebook friend this week comment on one of my posts about NICC athletics, saying they walked through it last year and they're blown away by how modern and like great the renovations look. College Suites, also a very, very nice facility. Can come completely furnished if the students want it. It has a weight room in there. It's got a common area with like ping pong tables, and then nice summer days, there's a patio door out back, like a garage door they can open up. So it's a very nice place. And I guess I should talk about our athletics facility quick itself. So right when you're coming down NICC Drive towards the Piasta campus, you look to your left and there's our NECAS building. And then to the left of that is what used to be the gas utility and construction program building. We're taking that building over and that program's moving elsewhere on campus. We're going to have a completely turf training area in there. So like we're going to have nets set up for like pitching, softball pitching, and if other sports wanted to use it as well for like say dance team wanted to have a different texture for what they wanted to practice on that day, they're more than welcome to. Another part of the building will have our weight training area with racks and other training needs like that. So locker room, classroom, coach's office, it'll all be in there, but still being worked on right now, hopefully done by the summer.
awesome. Now, is there any intentions, Luke, of possibly making that facility available to the community or anything like that? And the reason I ask is it seems like every place around, like Epworth just had a facility close. Right now the only option is really Delaney's and Farley, with their batting cages, or I know the rec center has one. Just kind of a need out there for some, cage time, especially during the winter months. So
That
didn't
would
know.
be something that would be considered. I know for the time being, at least for the weight training side, NICC the plan is for NICC staff and whatnot to be able to access that and use that equipment. But regarding the community side of it, I think that's a bigger conversation, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it will be had. Yeah. Because we want to be involved in the community as well. We want to be very visible in that. So.
Awesome.
You got anything? I see you're there.
You talking to me, Lyle?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening, I guess. Good night. Sorry to be tuning in late here. I'm actually in the college athletics grind right now myself. I'm calling it head coach Uber. I'm on my way right now to the Eastern Iowa airport to pick up some players, get them back to campus for the first day of class and first day of practice tomorrow. So I wanted to tune in to at least be present, and then just got back from Chicago this morning. But I was listening the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever long I've been on, and I got to say, man, I really, again, I am a huge advocate of junior college sports. I recruit a lot of junior college athletes. I travel to a lot of junior college campuses, and I think that they are the coolest, least talked about version of college athletics out there. And so I'm really, really excited to hear this NICC development. And then I also really just enjoyed hearing the facility side of the development as well too. Again, I think it's one of those things, hearing more details just now, that it's a no-brainer. I mean, it makes so much sense. And again, I went back to the last podcast and just saying, I look forward to seeing good sports at the college level being played in Piasta. Like, that is exciting as can possibly be. So no, I enjoyed the information I heard. Questions wise, I feel like everything that I was honestly wondering was just answered perfectly. I guess my question is that, I don't know if you've asked it already, but how broad is the horizon? And I know junior college NJCAA sponsors differently, and I know there's different sports based on region. So like for men's lacrosse, obviously they just added a team out of Milwaukee area. There's one in Chicago, but the rest are on the East Coast. But for the more Midwest, prominent sports, does that catalog of offerings, potentially continue to grow year after year?
Yeah, I would say over the next probably 5 to 10 years, you will see the addition of some programs. This is just kind of the ground level at this point, and I'm not going to reveal any of the sports that have been discussed, but there is absolutely going to be more addition coming down the road.
It's great. I'm definitely going to everyone and saying that you told us that you're adding pickleball.
Well, hey, I will say there's mornings I walk into that Piasta Rec Center and we could absolutely find a few pickleball coaches from that herd that are playing. So that place is packed.
That's awesome, man. Well, no, good on you guys and really everything going on over there. It's exciting. I'm really eager to watch it develop, and obviously being a 4-year option in the area, I know we are eager to be able to recruit off of y'all's rosters in the near future as well too, because I love junior college athletes. I think they are gritty. I think they're hard workers. And I think they come into 4-year programs as instant leaders with backgrounds already. And so I can definitely tell you, for one, we're really excited and supporting you all the way, and looking forward to even how it just expands other sports in the region just by having more recruitable athletes already in the area.
Yeah, and I think we don't shy away from the fact that junior college is kind of a development stage a little bit, because everybody's trying to better themselves to move on to that next level. And I am very confident in the coaches that we have hired, that they will be able to successfully push these student athletes forward even to that next level. So
yeah, and that's I mean, I was just reading through some bios, and obviously I'm a little familiar with some of the coaches that have been hired, but I think great hires, and I think I'm a big believer that your first hire for a program is what's going to dictate the program's success for many years to come. And it looks like great figures and great leaders hired right away to lead to early success. I guess my one question that comes to mind, just about scheduling and conferences and everything like that. I mean, who are likely close opponents, and then are we talking about traveling towards the Chicago area? How broad does a junior college schedule look like for a team out of Eastern Iowa?
So I believe it would vary based on sports because I know, like, for example, I'm pretty sure our cross country will be traveling a little for almost all of their meets until it seems necessary to host one down the road. But like baseball, it will probably be. I shouldn't really speak to it, but I know they're. I did hear Connor Klosterman last week say that somebody had asked him if we're going to be like crossing the river to get into Illinois a little, and he said that will be a possibility for sure. But once they do start getting their nose to the grindstone and scheduling everything out, yeah, I would expect your traditional Iowa Community College teams along with some other ones thrown in there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I just think, again, it's just, I'm ecstatic and elated that this is happening. And, again, I think over and over and over again about how many kids don't go to college because they only have 4-year offerings in their area, or they want to stay close to their family their first couple of years, or maybe they don't know if college is for them. And I think that's where junior college is the perfect opportunity for kids in a lot of different backgrounds to step in and be competitors right away.
Right. I think I've almost remembered that when that college was built over there back in I want to say the mid 70s or even maybe the latter part of the 70s, and how that has all started at one little shell, and they've developed and they've grown and expanded and done everything and brought a lot of the trades back in and everything. And I think, and it's a great way for some people to start, in their collegiate career and everything. And I think, Kyle, you mentioned that last week, about, some of these universities, they aren't going to take the big risk on some of these players, but yet they want to go play, want to go play their sports somewhere. And I think this is a win-win combination for both.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You even look at, a couple of the signings that I was going to be bringing in, that Bryce Hawthorne and Jonah Pace. Bryce Hawthorne's out of South Dakota State. He was a guy Iowa recruited in high school. They didn't offer him, right? He goes to South Dakota State and he's a dog, and now they want to bring him in, right? It's just really interesting, right? They don't offer these kids. They let them go somewhere else and then, develop a little bit and then bring them in and plug and play in their system. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. So, you're looking up there, your logo there, Luke, your future starts here. And I think it certainly does. And it's really going to progress really, really, really well. So
One thing, one thing I got too, Tucker, you're like that little brother that, back when we were kids would hop on the phone when we're talking to our girlfriend. I had no idea you were there, man. You got to let us know. You got to let us know you're there.
That's pretty good. Hey, yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
I think I like the role in this case because I jumped in and I heard the questions being asked in the conversation, and I was like, this is awesome, and this is what people need to hear, and listeners need to hear, and for gosh sakes, recruits need to hear. I think this is great material for anyone at any level to hear it. So I like being the fly on the wall for a couple seconds there. I was kind of seeing how long it would last, and I was gonna enter at some point, and then Lyle caught me, and I'm like, gosh, here we are.
See, Luke,
Tucker,
what you don't understand is Tucker is really like the face of the podcast, even though, podcasts don't have a face, but he's kind of the pretty boy, right? The one everybody talks about.
Yeah.
Lyle's the guy who's under the bunker, second base, doing all the hard work, and I'm just sitting here feeding off these two guys. So, but yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. A lot of fun. So what do we want to move on to next, guys? You want to talk some NIL stuff, or do you want to talk Hawkeyes or NFL as far as that goes? What's your thought? I mean, NCAA football, we got a whole gamut of stuff we could really run a buzz through.
Well, I saw. Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I just want to, it's a great day not to be a Packer fan. Luke, I'm sure you can share our excitement, right? I'm a Bear fan, root for the Lions, root for the Vikings, but I am never going to root for the Packers. So sorry about your loss there, guys. Maybe next year, but the Bears beat you down in the last week of the season. We are so back. We're heading into the off season. We're going to keep this rolling. I will say though, they hire Mike McCarthy. I'm done. Okay. I draw the line there. Really shooting for a little Ben Johnson, I know, but who knows? They're gonna make a decision, and it's not gonna be the right one, and that's okay, right? I'm 40 years into this, Lyle, and I just got to ride this train out. But I looked at all my kids after that Washington game, and I said, "Get out, get out now, find a different team. But
Right.
they're sticking with their dear old dad. But anyways, great day not to be a Packer fan. And I'll let somebody else bring up the hot topic of the day.
Yeah, I might expand on that Green Bay game. I mean the brutal. All they were three linemen were end up playing at the end of the game that have really basically never ever played before, and receivers, two of them were hurt. So I mean the
Oh, it
trainers got a
was.
lot of ice bags. They might as well just throw them in a whole tank and might as well throw them all in a whole tank, I guess, and be done with it because they're really battered and bruised.
Well, even was it that Dobbs who walked off again with that
Yeah,
concussion? I hate to see that. One
yeah,
thing I've been doing a ton of research on, the Guardian caps, the just overall
Oh yeah.
concussion. And I will tell you, like, it doesn't really hit until your kid starts playing football. You see it,
right.
and I mean, you care about it, but when your kid starts taking, some shots and it's such a great game. Football
Right.
is just an awesome game, and it's just a nature of the beast. And the Guardian caps, I've talked to kids that wear them. They really like them. I talked to a couple kids a game I was reffing this year. Really liked them, really felt comfortable, took some hits, said they didn't really even feel them, which, that's scary and not, right? But I don't know what the answer is. I still think the best thing is, heads up football. You saw in the Bills game today that one D back come in. Where does his head go? Right down between his legs, and he's out with a neck injury, concussion. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that stuff scares me. But in the end, like I don't like seeing that, especially with a guy who just had a concussion there in week 10, week 11. Then he comes back, and I just it's tough to see that. But
Yeah.
nature of the game.
Yeah. I tell you what, the
Yeah, I don't know what happened there to Tucker, but I seen Love at the end of the game there, and like the last 2.5 minutes, it seemed like the last 5 minutes took over a half hour to play because there's so many bodies laying down on the ground. They had to come out and stop the clock and penalties and everything else. But Love there, he kind of shook his head after one hit. He was shaking his head like a bull, like he's trying to get his bearings all lined back up again. So obviously he took a hit, but I don't know if they'd have won, they wouldn't have any. Where were they going to get them from for next week? I don't know. Divine intervention, I guess. I don't know.
What about
Lyle,
you?
you
Oh,
got
there
me
he
back
is.
here.
Yeah, I got
You
you
got me
back.
back here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Keeps
hear you.
of eastern Iowa roads right now are not helping with cellular connection. But I was going
Right.
to say the concussion prevention technologies out there are remarkable, and the direction that we're going is just better and better. And I think that the two that are my favorite right now are the Guardian caps and the Q collars. Um, Both of those have turned into really strong options.
Yeah,
Yeah,
big fan of the Q collar. Big fan of it. I've
um,
kind of read the studies, and there's a lot of research behind that. I don't think there's, as in my opinion, not as much quality research with the Guardian caps, but their start. And hopefully it's just going to become the norm, right? The norm that we have to do the research, we have to teach the kids. Like, I just hope we can all be better with that.
my wife's pretty passionate about all that concussion stuff and everything else. She watches all of her athletes pretty tight, And I remember talking to one of the helmet reps, and they were talking that it is when that head hits the surface on a turf, the repercussion of that or the ricochet of that is also has some effect on it as well, besides just the hit itself. So there's a lot of parallels that go on, even in anything, maybe even pickleball. There's probably a concussion in pickleball for all going on somewhere. But yeah, it's kind
Tucker,
of the name.
Tucker, are you seeing? I mean, what lacrosse? Is that an issue for you guys or?
We are an extremely high concussion sport. Our helmet manufacturers have been a little bit more ahead of the game for a while now on just technologies in the helmet to shock absorption and delayed impact and stuff like that. So we've been a little bit ahead of the curve. Our concussions come from a little bit different of contact scenarios. So recently we've seen more head-to-head contact and guys going down, leading with the head, and they put a lot of rules in place for that. But the biggest thing we have is if a guy gets body checked open field, he's going to hit the ground. And our biggest concern is really his head going down to the surface more than it is the head-to-head contact. We do wear my guys actually wear guardian caps in practice if they're quote unquote concussion prone. We'll throw guardian caps on them. Q collars are extremely popular in lacrosse. And so I'm a really big fan and advocate of those. But I will say the one thing I feel about football is I think football is always the number one target for concussions in mass media when they're talking about concussions. And if you really look at the data and you break down concussions by sport, soccer is an extremely concussion prone sport when people are heading the ball. Lacrosse is high concussion, hockey is high concussion. Any of these sports that you're going to make, impact with the ground or impact with an object or another human being are high contact. You're going to have concussions. And I feel that football has been the target of a lot of research for a long time because we hear about it so much. But I think that, concussion prevention technology should be implemented for a variety of sports that aren't really often talked about with concussions or, taken as seriously, I would say, with concussions. But yeah, no, we have a lot of them. As a player, I had a lot of them before we had these technologies now, I would say. And it sucks, man. I really, concussions are one of the scariest things I think about sports. And I think we're entering a time now where people are researching and caring enough, and there's medical research to make an effort to cut down on them. I just think we're a little bit behind the curve as a society in sports with concussion stuff. But I will say the one comment I had on that is that, football again is like, it's the billboard on the side of the road for concussions, basically. The rest of the sports, they don't get as much thought or attention about concussions, but the rate of concussions are very much there in other sports as well too.
It's the athlete's bigger, stronger, faster anymore, and so, they're going into the weight room and then some of them are four sport athletes and everything else, and that all contributes to all that too. And,
and you're also talking about strength and conditioning is a huge part of that. Now they're realizing that, strengthening your neck and your shoulders can help you prevent or minimize, concussion impact. And so, we used to just think it was all about the head, but really your entire neck and your body of strength, can either help you or hurt you in an instance like that too.
So, all right. So what do we want to move on to, guys? What's our next topic of interest?
Well, I tell you what, Lyle, you really sparked my interest. The one thing, Luke, that we're trying to do here is we're trying to, no topic too big, too small for this podcast. So we are sports oriented. But I tell you what, Lyle is a jack of all trades, and you want to bring Bitcoin into the fold here. I want to hear. There's a Bitcoin server now in Manchester, Lyle.
There is some big talk, and it's coming to town. Apparently, in Manchester, they're going to put a Bitcoin server in, and I've heard some details, but I haven't heard all the details yet of everything. But it's going to use a massive amount of electricity to feed that Bitcoin farm, apparently. So I don't know exactly where it's going yet. I don't think that's been nailed down yet, but the serving company basically came out and said that Manchester is the place, and that's where it's going. I don't know, based on employees, I don't know how many employees it takes to feed a bunch of servers or plug servers in. I don't know. I can't think a lot, but yeah, that's kind of where it's going, I guess, and so it'll be interesting to see how that all shapes up with the I guess the massive amount of electricity that thing is using. And so I have to give a shout out to Brian Hodgson. He was we were talking about it yesterday, and he brought up that a guy over in England had lost his hard drive, his Bitcoin hard drive, in the millions, like $87 million worth of Bitcoin hard drive, and he was going to the city to try to dig it back up, and try to get back in there to dig it up and in maybe the location where it could possibly be, and B, if it's even any good anymore, So he threw away like millions, like I said, $87 million is what I read. It could be something different, but it's kind of the new currency, and I knew some people that got into it a while ago. I mean, when 10 years ago when Bitcoin, we never heard of it before. What's a Bitcoin? We really didn't hear about it much till the last 3-4 years, and Sam Bankman-Fried and his antics, I guess, really put the population to it. But it's an interesting tool. It's certainly being used, and I think, Luke, you talked about earlier about a guy doing a pizza or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty old story. 2010, I think it was. This guy bought a pizza with like 10,000 Bitcoin or something like that. So pretty regrettable decision to look back on anymore.
Yeah,
Better
I
be
think
a damn good pizza.
what did we look at? Was it like 94 or something recently? So it's chugging along.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. And one thing I think it's with the government, with the recent election, and now you have a president who, I don't want to say encourages it, but it kind of just, accepts it. It's going to be interesting what the next norm's going to be over Bitcoin the next 4 years, right? And I think a lot of it, there again, driven by our government, which, can get scary sometimes. But so it's going to be interesting. And I do know that these Bitcoin farms can be a massive drain on infrastructure from an electricity standpoint. So that'll be a topic to follow as well, Lyle.
Yeah. I don't know if they're parking it next to a substation, or they're putting it around a wind turbine, I guess, or something, or whatever. It's all good when the wind blows, but yeah, there's no real electrical sources around Delaware County or Dubuque County or anywhere else besides wind turbines, and so I guess that's probably going to be the main feed of it. And who knows, maybe they'll put some more up or whatever. I really have no logistics behind what the draw is on it and everything, but they said it was a substantial amount. So
It's a really Bitcoin is a really interesting cryptocurrency, and it's kind of the most well known of them all and the longest running and probably the most stable, I guess a lot of financial people would say. But there's a lot of them out there. There's the big popular ones right now like XLM and XRP. There's actually governments that are moving towards using that as a standardized form of currency. So we're entering into an era where the idea of currency is constantly changing and fluctuating. And so I think staying with the trends on that is really cool and interesting. I always have the concern of, with Bitcoin, it's like, hey, if you lose your password and your access to your storage credentials, for Bitcoin, it's like, well, there you are. You're out a lot of money, or the hard drive in that case, like the guy over in Europe. But it's cryptocurrency is here, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. And I think the rest of the world is even leaning into it even harder than we are here in the States.
Right. And I don't, what is the regulation behind all that yet? And I don't know if that's been completely established either, to figure out how to handle that, everything else. But, the feds are going to want their piece of pie, and they'll probably have to figure it out somehow, how to get their dime or their dimes out of all that.
Yeah. Well, and the FTC is cracking down pretty hard on a lot of this kind of stuff now. And, people creating their own coins or meme coins, as you could say. There's been a lot with that recently. And so, yeah, a lot of news to follow in that region.
Yeah. Kyle, you got anything else there? Or?
Just some big news for former Western Dubuque grad, Grant Glazer, Iowa running back. He's going to transfer over to UNI. And I don't know, the NCAA changed like the roster spots. I want to say they used to be able to have like 125 on their roster, and they cut that down to 105. And essentially, like Iowa used to be able to have between 10 and 20 walk-ons, and this year I think they're projected to have like three walk-on spaces on their roster. So good thing for Grant Glazer though to UNI. I think he's going to do big things there. Kind of
he did good when he ran there the last 2 years, so I would say he'll fit right into that turf.
I will tell you that shot he took, you want to talk about big hits, that shot he took in the state the state final game where he got running a seam route and took a shot right to the back ribs and vomited actually right there on the field.
Right.
And
Yeah.
was actually not he was actually couldn't breathe when they got out there to him. He was blue, and takes 2 plays off and he's back in that field. I tell you what, he is a dog.
He
And
is.
I think that's gonna be something to watch for, right? That's just a guy who needs a shot to get on the field, and I think when he does get on the field, he's gonna do something special. So,
Yeah,
um,
he can certainly take some big punishment. I don't know, some of the hits he takes and some of the hits he delivers is quite
yeah,
something.
yeah, those
You know,
running backs are different though, right? It's either seek the
yeah,
contact or it's gonna seek you, and it's generally the guys that want to lay the hit, or the guys that
yeah,
the Derrick Henrys. Watching that guy this weekend, how the hell he still does it at 30 plus years old is just
right.
he's pulling away from D-backs. It's unreal.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
looking
You,
forward to seeing that.
and Kyle, you talked about, they're dropping them numbers, down to 105, and then let's say you got the walk-ons and you're cutting people. So let's say you got 25 or 30 people there. Well, also you start matching up with the three universities. I mean, that could be in a total of student athlete football players. You're looking at 75 kids.
Yeah.
So where do they go to? Do they go to some other university, and then all of a sudden, you just rounding up one big herd that just pushes the whole team off and starts over and progresses, or
Well, I know out of the 20 they had, it sounds like Iowa did them a solid. Sounds like Iowa sat them down, kind of told them, what their projections were, and sounds like out of the 20 that had that left, it sounds like 17 of them already have spots. But like you said, now the schools like you and I maybe was interested in offering somebody else. Now they're not going to do it, right? Because they
yeah,
picked up, and it's just a trickle down effect, and that's where the NICCs of the world and the Clarks and that's those are
yeah,
all in play now. So I mean, some schools that have
well,
been stopping down at the high school, like I've never even heard of some of these colleges, but they're all digging deep because
Uh-huh.
now they have a
uh,
shot. Where before they never did. So
yeah, and you're going to see the caliber of those colleges, really come up. And I mean, whether it's like a Wartburg or whatever, which they've been having great football seasons for the last number of years. And not so much to pick on them, but I mean, they're just gonna, it's gonna help them out to reload a little bit.
kind of off the wall sports topic for me. I love the Guttenberg area, love the Clayton County area. We got a cabin up there, and the U.S. Corps of Engineers is proposing to put a mooring structure up north of the dam, and essentially what that structure does is it allows you to park like barges like north of the dam, and I think it's pretty interesting deal. Guttenberg is just such a beautiful town. If you get to the north side of that, above that dam, you can see for miles. And now I think corporate greed and corporate structure, they're trying to push it off that it's going to be better for transportation and this and that, but really it's going to help the business side of moving grain up and down the Mississippi River, and they're trying to push it through quick. I encourage anybody who loves that area to do some research and sign some petitions. There's a bunch up in the Guttenberg area, but kind of a hot topic for me. Like I said, we got a cabin up there. We enjoy the river, and I just hate to make it just a highway for barges. That's never what that river was supposed to be about. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
so yeah, that's
Yeah.
my off the wall. That's my off the wall stat of the day. Tucker, what you got?
Oh man. Well, hopefully my connection doesn't crap out on me in the middle of this. But my off the wall thought was actually just about the state of Iowa, and specifically Eastern Iowa, in proximity to major cities. I spent the weekend in downtown Chicago. Kind of staying right by the Bean on Michigan Avenue, and I love Chicago in the wintertime. It's beautiful, it's picturesque, and I always have really interesting conversations with people. But one conversation in particular this morning really struck me and had me thinking the whole drive back. I ran into a gentleman running into the parking garage, and he asked me where I was from, and I said I'm from Iowa. And he said, "Well, I've never met anyone from Iowa before." And he goes, "How far away is that? I mean, what kind of drive are we working with there?" And I go, "Well, we're about 3 hours. In some parts of the city, only about 2.5." And he goes, "Well, I never would have thought that. I never would have realized that. And that is something completely new to me." And the amount of people I meet in Chicago that make their way to Galena is a large amount, but not many continue on past Galena into Dubuque and into the rest of Eastern Iowa. And I think it's an interesting thought, and really just an idea out there that we're so close to so many of these places, but a lot of people still haven't discovered the beauty and the resources and the culture that we have in Eastern Iowa. And that conversation really struck me. And every time I come back over the scenery of Dubuque, it's a
Yeah, dropping out there, Tucker. But
I hope a lot.
It's we get into the like the Minneapolis area. So I mean, you're within a really reachable direction to go to a
Yeah.
baseball park or a football game. I mean, you got Milwaukee and you got Minneapolis, Chicago, St. Louis is an easy stretch. And if you want to go down to the Big Ten tournament down there at Lucas Oil, so be it. It's not anything big. And since I threw that baseball aspect out of there, I tell you what, that College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska, is one of my all-time favorite type of one of the sporting events to go to. I thought it was just the coolest thing. Everybody's hooting and hollering, a lot of fun, a lot of celebration going on. And I want to make it back there. I don't even really care who plays, but just to hang out in right field and just hurrah with everybody, and I guess maybe I'll root for the underdog, I guess. So I'll flip and flop. But yeah, certainly a great thing to go see sometime if you're going to get a chance is College World Series there in Omaha.
Lyle, what's your favorite sports trip, out of Eastern Iowa, traveling any direction? What's the number one destination for you within driving distance for a sporting event?
Probably Milwaukee, probably up to the Brewers on that type of thing. Minneapolis, it's not so bad. It gets pretty ugly up there if you're going to watch football, and then the snow can come up there pretty heavy at times. But I'm Milwaukee for baseball. It's just easy to get in and easy to get out, and it's no must, and that type of thing. I went to Busch Stadium and certainly had a lot of fun there with that and all the fresh beer that we drank that day. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot of good fun stuff in a very reasonable drive.
I will say it's still hard to turn down Kinnick, and it's hard to turn down Carver for being. We've made that. Even my kids, like hour 20, you're right down there. You get. It doesn't take you any time to get out. I will say what the city of like Minneapolis has done with that, or that like Viking Stadium, how they got that all tied on the train. I tell you what, it is pretty easy, like it to get in and get out of there, and they had some city planning that really they did a good job with. But yeah,
Well,
if you're thinking quick and close, Iowa City, it always hits right.
Minneapolis too, even besides the train, which the metro is awesome. We usually frequently take it from Bloomington to the Mall of America all the way down. It's like a 30-40 minute trip for like a couple bucks. You can't beat it. But the skywalks in downtown Minneapolis, so even during the winter, a lot of the buildings connect, so you don't have to go outside and wear that -10 wind chill.
Right. Throwing back a tidbit, one time we were up in Minneapolis and in Gopherland up there, and come out of the hotel. There was no snow on the ground when we were inside, and we partied pretty hard. And we came out, and there was 10 inches of snow, and it was like, yeah, I didn't need to see that, but man, it was a pretty good poke to the old Metrodome type thing. But man, it was certainly a lot of fun up there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna maybe wrap this up here a little bit. Luke, thanks for coming on here to Don't You Know, and sharing that that big news with NICC and that whole new sports program, and it is really going to be exciting. It's really going to be exciting for that. And again, now we got more sports scores in the area, and more things to feed off of, and more talent to provide and go watch play and everything.
Yeah, it was great to be on. I'm happy to talk about it. You can stay up to date. We have Facebook pages and Twitter page as well. You can go out and check out. And we do have an athletics website that's going to be completed here shortly. So once that's out, we'll publish that on our Facebook page, and you can go visit the page sometime, see the rosters once they're starting to fill up, any news that's happening. So
That's super cool. Super cool. We'll look to have you back sometime, maybe down the road, and things progress a little farther with stuff, and you'll have more information and everything.
when the championships start rolling in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There we go.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Well, our guest next week is going to be Justin Penner. He's the football coach at Western Dubuque, state champ and all that. And he's here in the studio with me here next week. So for Tucker LaBelle, Kyle Ganson, and Luke Maiers, this is Lyle Tyson, and this is Don't You Know?